Good man. Thank you. Hey folks, welcome back. Today I want to talk about, well, I actually talked about it a couple of years ago in one of my videos, but this guy's a perfect example of what I talked about in that video, and well, it happens a little too often. And there's basically two things that I said in that one is don't believe anything you're told and assume the horse knows nothing. Now, he's a good example of that because when his owner was inquiring about him, well, I couldn't even get his age right. Then he said he also had experience on a chuck wagon team, so he was broke to drive. He was supposedly also broke to ride, and he'd had kids on him, and all that at the age of 2. I find that very hard to believe, and my personal experience with this horse is, no, he's not broke, and in fact, I think he's had very little, if any, training at all. And, well, that's where a lot of people run into problems, because they just keep insisting on listening to what they're told and believing it, and it's like, no. Unless you actually see an 8-year-old kid riding that horse, do not believe somebody that tells you it could be ridden by an 8-year-old kid, that it's kid safe, or whatever. Actually, I'd mentioned that in a recent video, or I think the proper term should be, is the kid horse safe? I don't think there's any such thing as a kid-safe horse if the kid doesn't know nothing. Well, anyhow, it's just a perfect example of, people tell you whatever you want. It's just like buying a used car. They'll tell you whatever they think you want to hear to make a sale. And well, in his case, that's pretty much what happened, and it happens a lot, not just with this one. I've even had it happen to myself, and I've seen it happen to quite a few other people, where the seller will tell you whatever they think you want to hear in order to make a sale, because some people just aren't attached to their animals like I am, and they're more interested in just making a buck than making sure the horse has got a good home. Well, making sure it has a good home is my priority, but let's not get into that. I want to talk about, like I said, they'll tell you whatever you want to get your money. If you want a broke horse, they'll tell you it's a broke horse. And when it comes to believing what you're told, well, don't believe a single word. Not one. No. Believe what is proven to you. If they say it's easy to catch, well, say, okay, fine. Take the halter off of it, let it out in the pasture, and then go catch it for me. Show me how easy it is to catch that horse. They say that it is easy to tack up. Well, fine, I want to see you put the saddle and bridle on it. Let's see how easy it is. And if they say it's broke to ride, knows all its gaits and everything else, soft on the reins and neck reins and la-da-da-da, well, let's see it. Get on the horse and show me. Don't ever, ever, and this is something that I've mentioned before, and it's a lot of people know this one, but not everybody, and unless you actually see somebody else ride a horse. When you go to look at a horse, whatever you do, don't get on it. Do not assume that it's actually safe to get on that thing. That's a really big mistake a lot of people make, and I've seen it happen on a number of occasions. Fortunately, some people are actually smart enough that when they show up, they'll say, get on the horse, let me see what it can do. And that's what you should be doing too. If they tell you it can do this, that, or the other thing, well, let's see it. Oh, let's see how good it is with its feet. Let's see how good it goes into a trailer. Let's see all of this stuff. And when it comes to the age too, well, I'll tell you, I've seen lots of cases where horses have been misrepresented. And in some cases, it's not always intentional either, by the way. Some of this stuff is like, well, mom and dad are selling the horse for the kid that's gone off to college and they don't want it anymore. And they really don't know all that much about the horse, but they, the things that they're telling you, they think are right. They think are true, but if they can't prove it and aren't willing to prove it, well, then just the safest thing to do is assume it knows nothing and pay accordingly. And, well, typical, just like this one here, if you're assuming it knows nothing, if he actually was fully trained, assuming it knows nothing is not going to be a problem. And you probably shouldn't be getting on a horse right away when you get it anyhow. That's my opinion anyhow. But it also gives you time to find out what the horse knows. Start with the basics, catch it, lead it, have it move in various directions for you at various gaits and all this stuff, and find out just how good this horse is and how much it knows. If it's already well trained, all that stuff's going to go really fast, and by the time you should be riding the horse anyhow, you'll already have gone through all this stuff and you'll know that it's okay to get on the horse. But don't make any assumptions, because that can get you hurt and scare the crap out of the horse if you start doing stuff with it that it's never been trained to do and doesn't know how to do and isn't experienced with. It's going to freak that horse out something terrible. So you got to just assume the horse knows nothing. Start from scratch, start from the beginning, go through absolutely everything you need to go through with the horse, from catching it, leading it, wave the saddle pad around before you try putting it on, see how it reacts to that, then try putting the saddle on. All this stuff, pick up its feet, put it in a trailer, do everything that you can possibly do, within limitations. Not everybody has a trailer either. I know that for a fact. Not everybody here has a trailer, believe me. There aren't that many horse trailers parked out here. Mine's one of the few. A lot of people don't have trailers, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't trailer train your horse if there's one available. But anyhow, that's one of the things that you might not be able to do. But there's lots of other things you can do. And you can check the horse out thoroughly and find out just how much it does know. And, don't pay for training that it doesn't have, because in my opinion, much of the purchase price of a horse, if it's been properly trained, you're actually paying for the training. The horse itself isn't worth a whole lot of money, although in the last couple of years prices have gone really silly around here. I don't know about where you live, but boy, oh boy, have horses gotten expensive. They've quadrupled in price. I don't understand it. There's no logical reason for it, but horses have gone up in price something crazy. It used to be you could buy a completely untrained horse for $300-400, no problem. Now you're going to pay a couple grand. And, I'm not even going to say how much they paid for this one. It was a lot more than I would have paid, but then again, times have changed. Well, I guess we've got to change with the times. That's how it is. But anyhow, remember, when you're buying a horse, you're paying for an untrained horse, no matter what they tell you. Unless they can prove it, assume it has never had any training. I don't care if they spent $2,000 on training. If they can't prove that it's trained, if they can't get on it and ride it and show you all of the things that it knows, then you just say, okay, I'm buying an untrained horse. That horse is worth X number of dollars as an untrained horse, and that's what we are willing to pay. Do not pay for training that you don't know it has, because just because they said, hey, we spent thousands of dollars on training, so I don't know that. You don't know that. I don't care what they say, because they might be filling you full of it. Maybe they're totally above board about it, but they could also be full of it as well. So I just want to give you a little reminder. Do not assume the horse knows anything at all. When you buy a horse that is untrained. Or just assume it's untrained. If they tell you they've spent money on training, no, don't mean nothing to me. The experience, the age, and everything else, well, as I said in another video about buying a horse, it'd be a good idea to get a vet to, come with you and check the horse out, and they can generally give you a reasonable idea of the age. It's a little tricky sometimes. It's not real easy. You can tell by looking at the teeth. There are certain ages that it's really hard to tell. But you can generally narrow it down a bit so that, if they say you're buying an 8-year-old horse, you can generally figure out it's an 8-year-old horse without too much trouble. This one here, because of the ages that he was allegedly at, we're not sure for sure. It's actually very difficult at his ages, or alleged ages, and at the moment, because he is a biter, I'm not sticking my finger in his mouth to take a good look at the teeth. But I question how old he was. I think the first age that they told them might have been closer than the second one that they told them. because they've told them everything from 2 to 6 years of age when they bought them, which would make them anywhere from 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 now. So we really don't know. But he's grown a lot in the past year, which doesn't correspond with what they said his age was, because the growth spurt usually takes place between 4 and 5, but every horse is different. I've got one out here, in fact, that until he was about 5 years old, he looked like a yearling. And then all of a sudden, poof, he turned into a horse. And now he looks like a regular horse. But until the age of about 5, if you had to cut his tail short, you could have sold him as a yearling quite easily. He just looked that way. But so you got to be careful. Like I said, spend the money on a vet. If you're investing, nowadays, like I said, you can easily spend $2,000 on a completely untrained horse. If you're going to invest that kind of money, spend $100 on the vet, or $200 or whatever it costs, and have them come out and take a look at the horse. Make sure what you're buying is legit and is what they say it is. Make sure it's actually sound and healthy and all this, because that's another one of those things that, hey, they'll tell you the horse is 100% fine and healthy, and you may find out that it's got all kinds of problems that, it may never be rideable. And after spending thousands of dollars on it, you don't want to end up with an unrideable horse, and you don't want to be turning around and selling it again to get rid of it and pawning off your problems on somebody else, because that makes you just as bad as the people you bought the horse from. So there you go. Assume the horse knows nothing, and don't believe what you're told. Have a good day.